It's your Friday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand, happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are all having a great Friday out there. Enjoy the warm weather. Looks like it's going to get a little cold for a few days here. Unpredictability of late March, early April. We know how that goes, but enjoy it while you can. That's what we got to do all the time. And we'll do that. I'll do that for sure. Great show coming up. Velle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune joins me here in a little bit for the daily delivery debate. Some Twins stuff, some Niko Medved stuff, and a wild thought with Velle. Good back and forth today. We disagreed on some things, but in the spirit of debate, it was all friendly. It was all dignified. It was all good like that, as we usually are. We don't usually rip each other's heads off. That's not how we operate. But that'll be here in just a few minutes here. Wild at the end of the show as well. A very good win for them last night that came after Velle and I talked, but could influence their playoff push for sure. Gopher women's basketball at the end of the show as well. Some Twins in a minute, both the outcome and the TV stuff. First foray in the regular season of the Twins TV situation, changing to MLB run. We'll get to the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. First, though, what I miss: Gophers men's hockey. You know, this whole opening segment with the Gophers and the Twins is going to be kind of a lesson in two things can be true at the same time. An and, not a but. Two things can be true. With the Gophers men's hockey team, these two things can be true. And I think most fans realize this, even if they are either focusing on one or the other right now. These two things can be true. Number one, the Gophers have a bad history, especially under head coach Bob Motzko, of falling apart in the third periods of critical games in the NCAA tournament. That's not a good time to fall apart in games. Not just the NCAA tournament this happens, but especially this. Really remembering, of course, a couple years ago when they lost the NCAA title game while trying to protect a 2-goal lead. Again, trying to protect a 2-goal lead going into the third period of their opener. Regional semifinals in Fargo on a Thursday. Gophers led 3-1. Things were looking pretty good. I didn't love their energy most of the game, but they were where they needed to be. They were up 3-1. They looked like they were in command of the game. Third period, things got a little passive. They got a little tight, trying to protect this 2-goal lead, not really adding on to this 2-goal lead. Next thing you know, 7 minutes into the period, looks like Jimmy Snuggerud gets taken down in the Gophers, and turnover, boom, right out front, goal, 3-2. A lot of people upset about that, rightfully so. I thought that was the worst of the two, what we could consider two controversial missed calls that led directly to goals. I thought that one was more egregious. That one looked pretty obvious. He got dumped into the corner, and then the puck gets turned over right away. Out front, goal, 3-2. So still, they're up 3-2 at that point. Yeah, momentum has changed. Yeah, some of that is of their own making because they've been passive already in the third period, but momentum has changed. Then the oddity. Goalie Liam Solier has to come out of the game because of an equipment problem. They can't give him enough time to fix it. There's NCAA rules saying how much time you have, so they have to bring in backup goalie Nathan Airy. Now, Nathan Airy had played the last couple of games for the Gophers, but he wasn't starting this game. He was the backup in this game. They decided to go back to Solier. They really don't have one true number one goalie this season, which is problematic in and of itself. But Airy comes in cold off the bench. UMass scores 5 seconds later. Now, to be fair, I don't know if Solier would have stopped that tip shot. That was an amazing play by UMass, but an unfortunate series of events for the Gophers. Solier comes back a couple minutes later, and it's 3-3. They beat him again with 5 minutes left. UMass goes up 4-3. This whole momentum thing, that was a clean goal. No controversy there. Looks like the Gophers are headed for the showers right there, but Jimmy Snuggerud comes back, gets an equalizer, 4-4, go to overtime. Then more controversy. Looks again like there's a penalty right before a goal that led to the winner. Was it Chesley, the defenseman for the Gophers, carrying the puck in the neutral zone? Ryan Chesley gets dumped. I looked at the replay. He got whacked pretty good on the shins. Like it went down a little bit easy, but it almost certainly could have and should have been a penalty. I think if it's first 3 periods, it's undoubtedly a penalty. Something weird happens in overtime where they swallow the whistle. Officials have a hard time calling penalties. Anyway, leads to a turnover, directly leads to a goal. The guy who tripped him from UMass retrieved the puck, skated into Minnesota's zone, and passed off for a tip-in winner. 5-4 overtime is your final. So, did the Gophers get some horrendous luck in the last 20 minutes of regulation and overtime? Yeah, absolutely. Soulier having to come out of the game, that's bad luck. The 2 other goals that a penalty could have been called, yeah, that's really bad luck. That's bad officiating, that's bad luck. Could the Gophers have locked down a 2-goal lead in better fashion and made their own luck? Could it have been 4-1 or 5-1 before any of that happened? Yeah, that's also true. So, 2 things can be true at once, and you've got one camp digging in on Bob Motzko saying this guy can't hold leads. This is a travesty. This is the only reason this has happened. And then you got the other camp saying we got hosed. The officials messed up. They cost the Gophers the game. It's both. It can be both. It can be both things. I think both of those things were in play on Thursday night. The end result is the Gophers get bounced in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. They were the 2 seed, almost a 1 seed. They should have won that game. They should still be playing. And there are 2 reasons for that. 1, they did a poor job with their energy in the 3rd period in protecting a lead. And 2, they got some really bad luck. The Twins' season debut, and TV debut on MLB Run programming was not without its glitches on Thursday. The game itself, rain delay for about an hour and a half. That's not their fault. That just happens. They're in St. Louis, open air stadium, some rain. So the game was supposed to start at 3:15, ends up starting around 4:45 for the first pitch. If whatever you watched it on, whether you bought the streaming package for $20 a month, $100 a year, or if you have cable or satellite that carries the channel that the Twins are on now, probably didn't like what you saw. Pablo Lopez got roughed up in that game, gave up a bunch of runs early. It was 4-0. Twins tried to come back, but they end up losing the opener 5-3. So not the opener to the season they wanted, not the opener to the season Pablo Lopez wanted. Harrison Bader, their new outfielder, got a couple hits, including a home run. That was really their biggest offensive threat of the day. I think he cut it to 4-2 in the middle of the game, but they could not come all the way back. Now, the TV stuff is, of course, more interesting. It's more long-lasting. This game, they'll wipe it away. They'll play again. 161 left. We won't remember this one for very long. The TV stuff, though, lasts longer. There's a glitch at the beginning. This is more of a glitch than anything. They played the wrong intro at the beginning of the broadcast. They played a Cleveland Guardians intro for a couple minutes before they figured it out, and they were like, wait a minute, what are we doing? I'm sure that's just some sort of technical mess up. I'm sure they won't do that again. New people, new operations, new stuff running the show, everything like that. That was embarrassing, but it is what it is. That's not going to happen again, probably. What is, again, longer lasting are the good and the bad of this, right? The good, I heard from a lot of people who got the $20 a month or $100 a year package and were satisfied with what they got. I think there was some problems initially with the mobile or, digital version of that. People were having a hard time getting the game, at least during the pregame. They probably would have been even madder if there hadn't been a rain delay, because it sounds like MLB had a technical problem before the game started, but would have been actually during the game. But then it started to work during the game. Everything was okay on the mobile version. I got the TV version right away. I'm one of those people. I'm subscribing to the $100 a year package. Got the free trial right now, but I'll be paying for it in a little bit because I think I like it. Just watching it Everything looked good. The picture looked good. I found it right away on the MLB app on my TV. Everything was fine with that. It sounded good. It looked good. It looks a little different than it did on, formerly Bally Sports North, before that Fox Sports North, now FanDuel TV or FanDuel Sports North. But that's to be expected. It's not going to look exactly the same. There's new graphics. There's new features, stuff like that. I found it to be just fine. Nothing really stood out to me in terms of production or, oh, wow, I love this, but I could watch a Twins game. Last year, I have Hulu. I couldn't do that last year. I had to kind of work around it, go watch games other places, things like that, catch highlights. I couldn't get a direct-to-consumer option last season, and I have that, and I've heard from a number of people that they like this option, they've bought this option, and that is good. That is the good of this right now. The bad, they took it down to the wire yesterday with announcing how you can watch games on cable and satellite. We knew all the direct-to-consumer stuff, but we didn't know what channel they were going to be on for sure. We didn't know the agreements that were going to be in place until about 7 hours before first pitch. Heard from someone who's having a hard time with the Spectrum app, trying to watch on their phone, trying to watch digitally. Heard from a couple people who didn't realize that the Xfinity Comcast tier would be a high tier, kind of like they were on the end of last season. They thought they'd be able to get the Twins just kind of regularly. That is not the case. You have to pay for the upper tier of programming to get the Twins on Comcast. So that was a kind of a rude awakening for some Twins fans as well. There's a cable company. I've not been able to corroborate this independently, but there is a cable company in Southwest metro area that is apparently not showing the Twins, that did show them last year, and is telling customers that the Twins are not offering anything other than the direct-to-consumer option, which is simply not true. You can watch them on a bunch of different cable systems. You can watch them on DirecTV. You can watch them on Fubo. You can watch them on DirecTV Stream. They are available a lot of different places in the linear model, as we call it, cable satellite. They are available. It didn't get announced till late, but they are available. They are certainly available. Those deals are in place. A lot of people watch them. So I don't know why customers are being told that, but maybe that will get resolved quickly as well. So some unhappy people. Some of it's just new. Some of it is legit complaining. Some of it is things are going to have to work themselves out, things like that. I think people largely liked the app version, or the being able to get the games, being able to watch them without having to buy a cable or satellite package is a win for a lot of fans who have cut the cord and ditched cable or satellite. I'll continue to watch this, monitor what transpires, things like that. I'm not going to make this like a daily thing, but of course, there's going to be glitches. There's going to be hiccups along the way. People want to be able to watch this team. More people have access to this than they have in the past, so I think that is a good thing. Still hearing that there will be a package of over-the-air games offered as well, so let's watch for that when that announcement comes, if and when that happens, because that would be a boon for anybody who doesn't pay for anything. They just want the games on over-the-air TV, antenna, however you get that. That would be a boon for them as well. So look for that. Look for a lot of different stuff as the season progresses, and maybe at some point look for a Twins victory.
Open a smart checking account at Royal Credit Union to get no monthly fees, no minimum balance, and a $250 bonus. See details at rcu.org/checking bonus. No minimum balance required to obtain bonus. Offer ends 5/31/25. Insured by NCAA.
It's daily delivery debate time. Michael Rand here. Velle E. Neal III, Star Tribune columnist with me. No shortage of things to get to today, Velle. First off, how you doing?
All is well. How are things with you?
Good. It's been a week. Kids are on spring break this week, so just kind of all over the place. Camps and can we do this? Can we do that? Trying to fit everything in, but we're having fun. We're doing it, and still plenty of time to watch sports and get ready for everything that's happening. It's been a busy week here. I mean, we got Twins opening day. We got some topics on that in a minute. Gophers hockey, NCAA tournament, Wild Wolves trying to make the playoffs. But let's start with the big story from earlier this week. Gopher men's basketball program has hired Niko Medved as its head coach. 3 NCAA tournaments in the last 4 years with Colorado State. Former student manager here. Roseville native, former assistant coach here for a year. He's been doing his thing at the head coach level for a lot of years now. I've got a specific question for you, but first off, what was your impression of that hire?
Well, if you're in a situation like the Gophers are, several years without playing in the NCAA tournament, your last two coaching hires have flopped. Maybe you could argue it's 3, maybe 4, going back to Munson and Levy and all that. They needed someone that could give them a jolt to get them back into respectability. And this one couldn't have fallen into your laps any better. Being a local product certainly helped. But Medved turned around Furman. He went to Drake for a year, and then he turned around Colorado State and made them a perennial 20-win team. So unlike the last two hires, Ben Johnson and Richard Pitino, this guy actually had some experience, a few years of experience coaching at Division I before he got the Gophers job. I think that was an incredible blunder and underestimating how tough it is to have a successful program in the Big Ten. Niko will not come into this as a newbie at all. He's got experience. He may bring a couple players with him. And I just think they couldn't do much better. I think it's an awesome move for them and a move that could set them up for sustained success.
I agree with that. What I want to know now, though, is what should expectations be in year one? Because I feel like previous times – new guy comes in, or woman, depending on what the program we're talking about, and it's like, okay, well, they gotta beef this up. They got to get new recruits in. It's going to take a while. I don't feel like that's the way college basketball operates anymore. To me, and he kind of addressed this in the opening news conference. Like, to me, there's no reason to think they can't be an NCAA tournament team next season if they make 3 or 4 good moves. But I want to hear your take on that.
I don't see that happening. I think there's going to be an adjustment period for Niko and trying to get the program on solid ground. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have his record in front of me. I believe his first couple of years at Furman and his first year at Colorado State weren't exactly boffo. And then he had to grow into things there and kind of build from the ground up. And if you look at the Gopher basketball program, I don't want to say it's rock bottom basketball because they didn't finish last in the Big Ten. They finished 11th, 12th?
12th. They were the 12th seed, yeah.
But still, at the same time, with people who are leaving, the leading scorer leaving, Frank Mitchell already entering the portal, they're kind of starting over for like the third time in 4 years, just from key players exiting. So he's starting from scratch here, basically. It's great that Isaac Azuma has returned. I'm not expecting him to be a tournament team next year. I'm expecting him to get his system in place, his style of play in place. Has instill his personality into this program and start building an identity that the Gophers have lacked the last several years. I think that should be an expectation for year one. Yeah, some wins would definitely help, but I'm not expecting him to all of a sudden win 20 games next year and make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament or make the NCAA tournament. I'm not expecting that from him at all. I'm expecting a year to start to build a foundation for future success.
I got to disagree. I don't know if you can expect it next year, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they can achieve that next year. Just because you mentioned, Colorado State, Furman, it took a while. Like, that's a different era of college basketball. This era right now, considering the resources that it sounds like Mark Coyle is ready to put into this program, being in the top third of the Big Ten in revenue sharing for men's basketball, I think they can bring in enough players next season that let's call it a competitive rebuild. I know that's a quasi trademark. I think this can be a competitive.
I had to go into that.
I think this can be a competitive rebuild. I think they can build for the future and the present. You can bring in 3 or 4 high-level players with the amount of money they're going to have, and that's all you need in basketball. Football, it's a much harder turnaround. You need way more players in football. I think they can be a competitive team next season. That doesn't mean they're going to be an NCAA tournament team, but I think that is still something that they should aspire to be, and I think they do aspire to be that next year.
Well, you're expecting them to have a great offseason, and I don't see that happening right away. Hi, I'm Niko Medved. Do you want to come play for the University of Minnesota? There's still going to be some players who are going to be skeptical of entering a situation that's kind of building from the ground up. 2, yes, there'll be some NIL money, but you know what? Because of revenue sharing, everybody else has got NIL money as well. So the teams already have money on top of that, could still outbid the Gophers for good players. So I think there's going to be a couple years of struggling to gain a foothold in that regards. And I think a big component of this is on Medved and Mark Coyle to go out and beat the drum for this program and get more NIL donations in to help build basketball. And I also want to take this time out to say that the women's program needs some attention as well. Don Plitzawai is headed in the right direction with the women's program. But in a publication that was not the Minnesota Star Tribune, they ranked the states based on if their high school talent would stay in state, how good would that team be? Minnesota is ranked second to California. That's how great girls' high school basketball is in this state. And if it's just kept a couple people. I know Liv McGill is in Florida as a player at Kansas State from the state of Minnesota. Freshman in Michigan's done great things, and I haven't gotten the Paige Beckers yet.
Well, yeah.
Just start keeping a couple of those, and maybe NIL money can do that. Then Plitzawhite's really going to have a roster to deal with here. So it's not just the men's program, which is in dire need of attention, no doubt. But let's not forget the women too.
No, and it sounds like they're going to get money too, which is important. They're going to be able to keep players, bring in players. What I think I read in our paper that 5 programs basically are going to get the revenue sharing money, and that's men's and women's basketball, football, men's hockey, and volleyball on the women's side. That's how they're going to share the revenue money. It's not going to be equal. Football is going to get the lion's share of it. Men's basketball is going to be next in line. But, even if men's basketball gets 15 to 20% of $20 million plus their NIL, they're going to be up over $5 million next year. Other teams are going to be higher than that, but they still will be able to afford players. I don't know. It's a wide open, brand new world. I think they can hit the ground running. I think they need to have a good year next year. I don't know if that means NCAA tournament. Definitely means at least NIT to me next year. I think that's kind of the rock bottom. That's the baseline for me next year of what I should expect from them next year.
And you're still in Niko. The thing with Niko too, he still has to make that decision that Ben struggled with. Does the NIL money go to freshmen, or does it go to keeping good players? Now you can argue that he doesn't have a lot of good players to keep, so maybe a lot of
to worry about that this year. Yeah,
or we're going to recruiting the portal.
Yeah.
So I guess recruiting high schoolers versus recruiting the portal versus retaining players. You got to figure out how to allocate those funds effectively.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because Ben Johnson had recruited a pretty good class, fresh incoming freshman class. We'll see where that stands. I think they've said they're reevaluating all the people that have already committed to the Gophers or that the Gophers were looking at and have offered. So a lot to sort out still. I have confidence that turning a program around quickly is easier than it used to be before the NIL era. There's just so much more player movement, so much more opportunity, especially if they beef up how much money they are going to spend. Let's move on to the Twins. Opener was Thursday. Let's look more big picture, though, a little bit more global. 3 predictions for the Twins. 1, Lavelle, will this team be sold before the end of the season?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I do think it's going to be sold. I don't think before the end of the season. I think if everything that's been reported recently is true, I still think there's interest in the club. The group of people who put in the offer that reportedly was turned down by the Twins, they do not believe that they're out of the running yet. So I don't know if they're coming back in with a higher bid or what. The crazy factor in this is on top of the uncertain television revenue and the potential work stoppage is the more than $400 million in debt that has been reported that the Twins have. Now, the buyer of the team does not have to take on all that debt. There could be an agreement on how that debt is handled by both parties, which is fortunate because if you're thinking someone's bidding 1.5 and there's $400 million of debt, that's almost like $1.9 billion, and the Twins are worth now $1.9 billion. Right. I think the family was hoping to get 2. I think they should strongly consider the 1.5. Forbes' evaluations came out on Wednesday, and the Twins were ranked 23rd in baseball. Value was $1.5 billion. So can they get to 1.7? I don't know, but I think they need to revisit the 1.5 if that's the best offer they can get.
Probably a sliding scale based on how much debt is taken on. You're right. Not all debt is created equal too. Kind of depends on what kind of debt it is, what the interest is on it, things like that. So we'll probably find out more about that. But you're right, it's a little bit more complicated when that factors in because then it's probably not just pure selling price. It's, there's other financial considerations. And you're right. The biggest sticking point has got to be this, the TV revenue, which is way down. You don't know what's going to happen with the game after the 2026 season. Like, you don't want to be buying this team and then finding out that there's going to be a work stoppage that's going to cut into your, ticket revenue, things like that. I mean, it cuts payroll a little bit, I would imagine, but it also doesn't it also doesn't help you at the gate. So there's a lot for baseball to sort out. I mean, honestly, like, if baseball gets its financial house in order, it might make things more attractive at some point. Like, if they come to a new CBA that's got more protections for salary floors, salary ceilings, things like that. Can't say cap, ceilings. They're never going to do a cap, but whatever they decide.
Share the local revenue. Just share the local revenue.
Yes.
You don't even have to go to a cap. Just start there. When the Mets are spending $200 million more in the Twins, something needs to be addressed.
Yes. When the Dodgers are going to make $1 billion this year in revenue, something's got to be changing. You're right about that. Question number 2, by the end of the season, which starting pitcher for the Twins will have the best numbers?
What numbers are we talking about? Are we talking about traditional numbers or WHIP, ERA plus?
Which starting pitcher will we agree upon as having had the best season?
I'm going Pablo Lopez. I am. He won 50 games last year, and there were times where he wasn't the best pitcher on the staff, but he still ended up going, I think, 15-9 and 15-10. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here because I've heard him talk. He articulates pitching so well.
Right.
He puts everything, his mind, his body, every ounce of energy he's got, he puts into being the best pitcher he possibly can. Not to say that Bailey Ober and Joe Ryan and the other guys don't, but he presents himself that way. And you just think that he's going to be the guy who's going to step up and pitch like a staff ace. And, he's not ready to be up until the super ace category, but there's years when pitchers aren't considered aces, but they pitch like aces. And I think of anyone on that twin staff, Pablo's the one who can have that 1 year that could be spectacular. So I'm going Pablo. I know it's kind of boring, easy, low-hanging fruit there, but I just like everything about the guy.
Probably the leader in the clubhouse. I'll give you that. I'm gonna go with the dark horse. I'm gonna say Bailey Ober. I just think he's ascending. I liked what I saw from him last year. I'm a little concerned about the velocity right now. I don't know if that's just him working on stuff or if there's something lingering behind it, but he was still getting guys out this spring. As long as the velocity is where it should be, I think he could have a breakout year, even beyond what he's been.
Yep. That's not a bad choice either. I want to see the first couple weeks of the season, too, to see where these velocities are settling at, because I've covered many pitchers through the years who didn't throw that hard in camp, and it was a slow progression to them being able to throw their fastest fastball into the regular season. Joe Nathan's first camp, after being traded from the Giants, he was throwing 89 miles an hour, and he had to call the Giants and say, okay, is this what I used to do? He's like, yeah, I used to be like this every spring. You start out low and you build. And by the time this regular season came around, he was hitting 96 on the gun. So I want to see if Yohan Duran's really lost another mile off his fastball, or where Ober's at, or where Ryan's at coming off of surgery. So let's just kind of wait and get some data to before we arrive at a conclusion.
96 would be slow these days, by the way. Isn't that funny?
Well, 94 is considered an average fastball now, which is crazy. Back in my day, as a kid, 94 was like flamethrower.
You want your relievers to throw a 98 all the time now. Everybody. It's bonkers. I remember when they got Jim Huey from Baltimore, and it was like, oh, this guy can throw 96, and it was the big deal, and he was not good.
Andy McPhail was still an executive with the Orioles then. I remember you're going to see some big numbers from this guy when he throws his fastball. Yeah, we saw some big numbers when they connected with it.
Exactly. All right, last one, Lavelle. We talked about pitching. Who's going to be the position player MVP this season?
My pick to click is Jose Miranda.
Jose Miranda, that's a limb. Good, okay.
And that's my guy, because he's over 1,000 player appearances in his career. He's got experience now, and he was terrific in that June-July stretch where I think he had hits in 12 straight games, or 12 straight plate appearances, I believe. He got in like some incredible role, and I think he's had enough experience now and knows what he needs to do to get hits in the major league level, that it's all going to come together for him. Is he going to be like the best Twins offensive player? No, but I think as a guy who's going to step up and raise his game to the next level, I think Miranda is going to be that guy.
I'll take Matt Wallner as their position player MVP. I think he's gonna have a big year. I think he's on to something here. His numbers are good. You could see an OPS over 900. He's in the leadoff spot. He's going to take walks. He's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to see a lot of pitches. He's going to get fastballs to hit. I like him to have a monster season.
That's not a bad pick either. He got off to a horrible start last year and had to spend some time in the minors, and he still ended up, I believe, with a OPS plus of 149. I believe. So he was really better than 50% of players. No, he's 50% better than the average player. Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's what.
I would have had a bad month.
Yeah. Lavelle, last subject. Are the Wild even going to make the playoffs? I'm the guy who keeps looking at these playoff probabilities, see them keep, they've lost a few games lately. St. Louis nipping at their heels. Calgary's got some games in hand. Vancouver's still in the mix. Are they going to get to the finish line?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that
you don't think they're going to make it?
The collapse is. I think by the time that Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek get back on the ice and start appearing in games, that it's going to be too little, too late. And by the way, as we're taping this, Ek and Kaprizov are skating with the Wild.
Yes.
Their first practice as we speak. So I don't know if there's enough time. They're going to need time to practice with their team, to knock off the rust. Conditioning wise, it should be okay. I'm gotta imagine they've been on the treadmill or something during this period, getting their conditioning straight. I don't know how long it will take, but I will say this though: if I keep training camp in mind, these guys show up for training camp and have 5 practices, and then they start playing regular season games. It seems like it does. It seems like it's a quick turnaround. So maybe they just need a few games. But the way things are going, this is a great opportunity for Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi to step up and prove that they're the young guns that are taking their game to the next level and kind of fill in the breach here created by Kaprizov and Ek being injured, and they failed to do it. Boldy was awful over the last month, and Rossi played like a third line center. It wasn't there. And now you're asking Foligno to raise his game. I don't know how much he can. He's 3 guys that Billy Guerin called out at the end of last year were playing on the same line. I call it the redemption line of Gaudreau, Johansson, and Hartman. Hartman served a lengthy suspension, but they're not considered offensive juggernauts. No one's been able to step up and take on the scoring load in these players' absences, and it was glaring. And if they fail to hold the fort during this period, I think it's going to cost them.
I'm torn. I still think they probably get there. I don't like their chances in the playoffs. I mean, unless they can get hot, unless these guys come back and they start playing like they were.
Dallas or St. Louis in the first, not St. Louis, Winnipeg, Dallas, or was it St. Louis the third?
Vegas, maybe Vegas or
Vegas, Winnipeg, or Dallas. No hook in the first round.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I don't think so, but I think the probability still says 85%. Like they've banked enough points to probably still stagger there. They'll grab a point here and there. They'll get a win when Gustafsson stands on his head. Maybe these guys come back and get enough goals. But it's been the bottom line is it has been painful to watch all of these low event Wild games where they're trying to get a goal and just sit on it forever. This is not a fun team to watch right now.
No, it's hard to play 1-0 games in the NHL, and the Wild have been involved in a couple of them down the stretch. It has been hard to watch. It's been hard to watch the offense blowing chances when they've got them and been unable to create chances, and it puts a lot of pressure on the defense and the goaltender. And they've tried as much as they could to kind of stem the tide here, but. In Vegas came in the other day and beat them 5-1, and it was that did not look good at all here. So
no, it did not.
I just got my concerns, man. I just think that they've put as much as they could to try to kind of hold the ship right. Is that right? Hold the ship afloat before the injured guys come back. And I'm sure it took a lot of energy for them to try to get to this point, but it hasn't worked. And I just think by the time these the injured guys get in the lineup, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, I think we're of the same mind. I'm just saying the math is still going to be enough for them to get there. That they're going to get just
September
enough.
September 1st of last year, people thought the Twins were still making it.
That's true too. Their probability went from like 98% to 0 in all it took was a quarter of the season, which it kind of feels like the Wild are doing. We'll see what happens. It's fun. Wolves, they're kind of in the same boat. I mean, they're going to be in the play-in no matter what, but can they get the top 6 seed? Maybe that's something we can talk about next week. Lavelle, appreciate it as always. Enjoy watching all the fun stuff over the weekend. College hoops, Twins, Gopher hockey. We'll see about that. Until next week, we'll talk to you later.
Sounds awesome. Take care. Happy opening day.
Great stuff from Lavelle. And again, we record those on Thursday, usually late morning, early afternoon. Hedging a little bit. I think if both of us were being honest when we did that Wild segment, the part of that segment, we probably thought they were going to lose to the Washington Capitals, best team, most points in the NHL this season, on Thursday night and continue their slide towards precariousness in the playoff race. Instead, the Wild win 4-2. 2 goals for Freddie Gaudreau, 28 saves for Philip Gustafsson. Good, solid third period. They were up 3-2. They were able to maintain that until an empty net goal. I think it was Gaudreau's second was an empty netter. Big one from Boldy at the end of the second period. Again, like Lavelle said, he has been struggling. So to see him get the tie-breaking goal, the goal that gives them the 3-2 lead, they came back from a 2-1 deficit to win this game. So a big win for the Wild in the big picture, a big win in the small picture. Cool thing at the end of the game, too. Alex Ovechkin leads the Capitals onto the ice to shake hands with Marc-Andre Fleury. Legend respecting a legend. Fleury expected to retire at the end of this season, and those guys obviously did battle a ton over the years when Fleury was in Pittsburgh and Ovechkin still with Washington Capitals. So cool thing at the end of that game. Great win for the Wild. Man, did they need that one. So big for them to get that one in the win column. We'll see if they can keep that going. Still some tough games coming up. New Jersey at the Islanders, like not great teams, but teams that are battling for playoff spots in desperation mode. They will get their best games. Let's finish with the cooler, too. Gopher women's basketball team beats Gonzaga 82-77 in the quarterfinals of the WBIT Amaya Battle. 35 points for the Gophers. Huge game for Amaya Battle. So there they go into the semifinals of the WBIT tournament. So that's good for them. They should have made the NCAA tournament this year. I think they had a slide down the stretch where they couldn't get those 1 or 2 wins to get them over the hump. But what a program does with disappointment tells you a lot. This is the second straight year where they've been able to kind of overcome some end-of-year stuff and get themselves into a spot where they're playing postseason basketball, getting more experience. So good for them. Not the tournament they want to be in, but maybe next year this will be kind of the start of something where they can get to that NCAA tournament a year from now. That will do it for me today. Twins this weekend, some big Wolves games. Wolves versus Suns tonight. Big for them in that one. No Gopher hockey this weekend. That's a bummer. Could have been a pretty cool region final on Saturday in Fargo. Western Michigan beat Minnesota State Mankato to get in overtime as well to get to that region final. So no Gopher hockey this weekend, but plenty to watch, plenty to pay attention to. Until then, on Monday with Royce, I am Michael Rand, back at it again on Monday.